Hi, everyone. Pastor Dave here. Yeah, another effort, another try at trying to help Christians be better Christians. I know you have it in you. I refer to myself as Pastor Dave. And of course, I use the term pastor rather loosely because I'm not much of a believer in the God of Abraham, because that's a very dangerous and evil God. So my choice of divineness is with Jesus. And even though Jesus may or may not exist, I prefer to think of the divinity of Christ not in the sense that he's the direct Son of God, but as just a human being who is able to achieve divine awareness, much like Buddha. And even if Jesus isn't the person we think he is, it's just convenient for me to think of Jesus in the context of somebody who understood how we could be better human beings. So that's why I love Jesus. Just the idea of Jesus, even if that's sufficient. I suppose technically I'm an atheist in the sense that I do not believe in the God of Abraham. But Jesus is such an important character, at least for me, that it's far more useful to think of Jesus as your divine leader, at least my divine leader, because of the message, the basic message that he tried to give us. Because I truly believe if Jesus existed and these qualities are attributed to Jesus, it's convenient for me to think of what Jesus wanted for us. And he wanted just one thing, and that was to bring the kingdom of heaven to earth, meaning he wants peace on earth. And there was only 3 ways we could do that, and we have to do them in order. We have to learn non-judgment. We have to learn to forgive, not just ourselves or everyone else, but we have to really learn how to forgive everything, even the idea of creation and how flawed apparently the whole idea of creation. We have to let go of those kind of negative thoughts. We forgive the notion that we are angry about how difficult life is. And then ultimately we have to learn to love ourselves and each other. Because when you really achieve that kind of love for yourself, you can establish a sense of peace in yourself. And if you can establish that sense of peace in yourself, then there you go. You have what you would call the formula to have peace on earth. Because if one of us can achieve peace, then many of us can achieve peace within ourselves, and then that peace can generate throughout the world. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, I suppose, to think of it as a practical solution, but it is a real solution. It's unlike anything else. We clearly have a need to be better than we are, but at least if we can achieve this kind of collective consciousness about bringing peace on earth, we might actually have a shot at this. So we have to let go of our religious tendencies to think that our thoughts are the only right thoughts and that everyone else is wrong. Because that's not a unifying principle. So I'm not a religious pastor. I think religion is extremely flawed. But yes, I do have to not judge and forgive those that seem to be dependent. And I'm offering a genuine alternative to what you believe, to what you think we have to believe. You can actually take real proactive, real spiritual, real divine-based actions to become better Christians, to become better Muslims, to become better Jews or Hindus, whatever it is. You can do better by just doing the same basic steps that Jesus offered. And if it is offensive to use the term Jesus, then don't use Jesus. Muhammad wanted similar things. He certainly wanted peace on earth. Islam means peace. So he certainly had the vision for peace. So if people can let go of their need to cling to the dogma of religion and really focus on the faithful sort of divine vision of their spiritual leader, then that's what we need. So I'm not a pastor in the religious sense, but I do want this sort of divine sensibility. So I guess I'm more of a pastor of faith, or the belief in the divine, the belief that we can be better human beings. So, I do have an official here. I have there's my ordination certificate. So I try to make myself at least officially a pastor, so I can say that without lying. So I can say, yes, I'm a pastor. And I only explain all that because I want that distinction to be understood. That not only am I a pastor in hopes of a real divine solution, that we find the best of the divine quality within ourselves, but to be able to share that, and hopefully it becomes part of a world order. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but that's what we should aspire to. And it's a far better aspiration than just wanting to ensure eternal life in heaven. That's very selfish. You need to try to bring your love of Jesus, your love of the divine, the sensibilities that you get from Jesus, and apply them to your life so that you can find that internal peace and in turn help others. And don't proselytize your faith, your religion. Just try to make people aware of the simple steps. Not that they're simple, because it's impossible, really. Our tendency for non-judgment is extremely difficult because we're so judgmental. We're judgmental on everything because we live in fear. And so we need to judge, or at least our brain is overly active in judging everything because everything is a danger. But if you're truly connected, like I believe Jesus was connected, then you would let go of the need to be judgmental because you know that judgment comes from a place of fear and you don't want to live in fear. So that's why you try to develop your sense of non-judgment so that you don't react, don't live in fear, and so that you can move on to the deeper possibility of forgiveness and love for the ultimate goal of peace. And that's very simple, to articulate, but extremely difficult to put into practice. But that's not why I'm talking about this. But I'm just pointing out that that's what you should do. You should have this kind of goal. If you really want to call yourself a Christian, then your values that you identify, even in your religion, should match up with your personal sensibility. You should want to be a non-judgmental person. You should want to be a Christian, forgiving Christian person. Or Muslim forgiveness. The idea of forgiveness should be part of your divine journey. It should be. And of course, this will lead to deeper things like loving yourself so that you really can love others because you see the deeper divineness of everyone. And of course, ultimately for your goal of peace. So all of your values should also line up with your politics. You should want peace on earth, which means you should not want guns in your life. You should want to be pro-life at every level. You should want to make sure that those that do not have, that have less than you, that cannot manage their life without help. You should not judge them because they're not pulling up their own bootstraps. You should be able to give without them losing their dignity. which is why you should be a universal health care advocate. You should want Medicare for all. Because if everybody has Medicare, then no one would have to feel badly because they're getting government support. Because there it is. You would have a system for everyone. And that's where people will be dignified in their life because they're not mooching off the government system. The system is for all Americans. And, ultimately, we hope the world would want to do that for all of its citizens. And then we could at least have the assurance of medical care. So that's why your politics should reflect your values. You should have a broader sensibility. Instead of being afraid of government programs, you should encourage it. Because collectively, we can do more for everyone else if we do it together. And we need the government to do it so that we don't necessarily do what one person wants more than another. So you shouldn't be afraid of the government. Stop worrying that you're going to lose your religion. Because ironically, if you insist on not working with each other to develop a better system to help other people, then you're not really being religious. You're just living in fear. That's why you have to develop a real consciousness about what you truly value. And again, I'll just focus on the Christian values that I identify: non-judgment, forgiveness, love, for the express purpose of peace. You want to be able to care for other people because that's a Christian value. That's justice. You want justice. You want all people to be able to live under the safety and protection of good government, which wants to watch out for its citizens. Will all citizens be good? No, obviously, they won't. But we should have consistent ideas about protecting everyone, not just the select few, not just the wealthy, not just the Republicans. You want to help all because that's your Christian value. And if you don't have that Christian value, and you're so fearful that government control will lead to the loss of religion, well, let me tell you right now, you've already lost your religion because you've already allowed yourself to live in fear. So you're not living in religion. You're not living in the divine sense that Jesus wanted you to live. He wants you to take care of yourself and others. He doesn't want you to focus on the afterlife. He wants you to bring the kingdom of heaven to earth. And to do that through your own divine development and your own personal relationship with your divine leader, in this case, Jesus. That's what's going to work for you. So give up your religion. Focus on your divine relationship. That sensibility, whatever that divine quality is within you. I understand atheists will reject the notion of the divine, but that's fine. I don't know what to call it, but I do feel there is a connection that you have personally, and we can even make it in terms of secular terms. That connection that you want is to a broader truth. That you know your moral sensibility is that we cannot do things against other people because it would be wrong. If slavery is the best example. You can't encourage slavery because you personally wouldn't want slavery either. So if you eliminate all of the religion that encourages the worst of us, then we'll probably be able to focus on the best of us. And that's why I think it's useful to use Jesus, but it doesn't have to. You don't have to use Jesus as your divine focus. I just think it's more useful to use sort of an external focal point in order to develop your divine sensibility or your, self-awareness, your sense of truth, whatever it is that gets you to the place where you're not just reacting in your life, you're actually bringing some level of consciousness to your life. So I have no problem with the atheists sort of raising their own consciousness in whatever form they need to raise. As long as we agree on the proposed notion that we should live in peace, that we should respect all human beings, that we should try to help each other, because collectively we're going to do far better than if we do just our individual interest. So that's why we develop the values that we develop. And the means that Christ wanted us to do. He wanted us to live in non-judgment, where we don't judge others, that we understand the flaws of humanity, and that we try to work through that, because we're all flawed. And if we all just insist on our own vision, it's going to be a problem. It has to be a collective effort, because we're better collectively than we are individually. But we do want to respect the individual. But we also want to have the vision of the collective, the broader worldwide view. So that's why your values that you develop within yourself have to match politically. That's why you should definitely not be fearful of government control that will help overcome global warming, which is a real thing. And it is not valid for you to reject the notion that global warming is a real problem, because the only reason why you're rejecting it is because you're rejecting it for your fear of government control, because you think you're going to lose your religion. That is not a valid reason to reject the idea of global warming and the need for us to get rid of fossil fuel emissions, to do what we can to improve the quality of Earth by stop abusing the Earth, by raping it for coal and other fossil fuel substances that will only cause greenhouse gases to increase and global warming to bring havoc to our Earth. It is not real for you to reject the science because you're not doing it with any valid reason. You're only doing it because you have been convinced somehow that such government control will directly lead to the loss of your religious rights. And again, let me point out that if you keep living in that place of fear, you've already lost your religion. And government control will have nothing to do with it. It'll be just you not living up to the values that your divine connection says you should be doing. So stop rejecting science because you're so afraid of government control, because you're so afraid that government control will lead to the loss of religion. Because you've already lost it. Because you're living in such tremendous fear that that equation that you've decided government control means that you will lose your First Amendment rights is rooted in fear. It has no place. So your politics is all twisted because you cannot get out of your own way. You are not able to get out of the fear that is actually keeping you from the divine sensibility that you claim you want. But you don't do it because you'd rather live in fear than do what's best for the whole world. Because you're convinced people want to take away your God. You're taking away yourself from your own God, from your own divine purpose, by living in fear and reacting and rejecting all that is good all the effort collectively of humanity that is trying to do what's best for the world. That's where you should be mentally and spiritually. You should want a collective world. And whatever is helping us understand how the world works and how we're interacting and what we need to do to make sure our earth is a better place to live, stopping wars, stopping global warming, taking care of everybody, making sure everybody has the basic needs in life, including healthcare, then your whole politics should change. And it's not because I'm somehow twisting this reality so that you will, fall into the evil of communistic thinking. No, you are already perpetuating the evil of fear. You need to break free of that. You need to stop convincing yourself that government control or government regulation or government programs is the same as communism, which is the same as losing your religion. Quite frankly, if you can't get out of the fear, you have already lost your religion. There's no reason to change laws to deny your religion. You're already doing that. If you are living in a religion of fear, you have nothing. You have nothing divine about your religion. You start acting like a real Christian that actually has Christ's values, then you might actually save your religion. You'll save your divine purpose. Because you'll be able to recognize that, oh my God, I've been living in fear all these years. And that fear is affecting the way I'm interacting in the world. It is causing me to make bad decisions. Really bad, political decisions, personal decisions. All because you live in fear. If you really want the world to be a better place, then you got to take a hard look at yourself. You have to make an honest assessment of why do I have the political values that I have? Why? Why are you against the idea of global warming? I mean, really, why are you? Why don't you want Medicare for all? Why? Why would that be such a bad thing? Isn't one of your values to provide justice and to care for those that are in need? Where is your Christian sensibility? Where is your compassion? Where is your love of humanity? If you really are rejecting Medicare for all because you really believe you're just going to lose your religion, you should reject that. That's not a valid point. That's not real. They're just playing on your fear, and you're buying into it. Forget that. Be a better Christian by being more divinely connected to Christ, or whatever divine identity you choose, even if it is just truth. Because we can do better as a human world, as a world for humanity, if we think about others and not just ourselves. That we have this broader definition of what is good. Not what's good for me personally, but what's good for the whole world. How can we bring peace on earth? What are the steps we have to take? Jesus laid it out real clear. Couldn't be clearer. You have to stop judging yourself and each other. We have to learn how to forgive for all those things that people do, because we have to keep our eye on the bigger ball, the bigger vision. We want the heavenly kingdom to be on earth. And you can be part of it. Or you can just live in fear and reject global warming and reject Medicare for all and reject anything that will allow us to unify the world, to help the world. You should be aligned politically based on your divine sensibility. And if you're not, then you got to look at your real relationship with the divine within yourself and really ask yourself, well, why am I so pro-gun? Why do I want guns? Would Jesus really want you to have guns? Is that what he really thought? I understand the reason why you have guns is, wait for it, yes, you're living in fear. And that fear is why you have chosen to promote guns, to reject gun control even. You don't want a safer world. You just want to make sure that you can shoot other people if they should so attack you. And that's where you're living in fear. And if you're living in fear, you're not religion. You've lost your religion. You've lost your relationship with Christ. Because he thought more of you. He thought more of human beings. He said we really can overcome our fear, our hatred, our need to judge others. He thought you could do that. Because he thought if we do this enough, if we can have this broad collective idea, this vision, we could have peace on earth. We can bring the kingdom of heaven to earth. Because he wanted peace. And having guns doesn't promote peace. It means you're living in fear. And this is the simple argument. If you have a social conservative agenda, you need to truly look at your reasons for having those political values, especially if you call yourself a Christian, especially if you think it's important to have these divine values of non-judgment, forgiveness, love, for the purposes of peace. That is your purpose, to help promote peace, to help find peace in yourself. And you do that with a divine relationship, a divine connection to Jesus, I believe. And if you fail to do that, then you're just giving into fear. You're just giving into hatred, giving into jealousy, giving into all those lesser emotions. Yeah, I know we have reasons for being fearful, but to create a political value system based on fear, no, then fear has been abused. That's not good. You can't have a value system based on fear. That's not a value system. That's just reactionary. You're not thinking, you're not raising your consciousness, you're not improving your connection to the divine. You're just living in fear. And you're letting hatred affect your thinking. So all of those values that you think are really dictating your political, social, conservative value are not values. They're all rooted in fear. Your reason for guns is for fear. Your reason to deny Medicare for all is out of fear. The reason to reject global warming is out of fear. Your pro-life stance is out of fear. Because you should be pro-life all across the board. But you're not. You're just an anti-abortionist. You're not pro-mother. You're not pro-newborn. You're not pro-elderly. You're not pro-death row residents. You're not any of that. That's none of that is pro. Your pro-life vision should really affect how we handle criminals, those people that do not or cannot follow the rules of law, which is supposedly important to you. You should really be a forgiving Christian and give each criminal, each violator of law, the chance to reform. And just the idea that if they break the law, however slight, possession of marijuana, and you want them jailed, when you should be developing programs so that they become better, more productive citizens. And we should really be spending that kind of money on education and job development and job training and just helping people find their way in society. That's a real good Christian value. You just want to throw people in jail for the slightest break of the law, be it immigration or drug possession, and you're just putting all these people in jail with no hope of ever. They'll probably have no choice but to commit other crimes should they get out. So we need lighter sentences or non-sentences where you just have people go into job training, job programs, counseling, that kind of thing. And we really need to have that kind of collective vision where we help people, even the ones that break the law. Stop being so judgmental. Stop being so unforgiving that you see no value in anyone who commits a crime, no matter how slight. How dare you call yourself a Christian and you cannot forgive people who enter this country because they are afraid of the lives in the country they came from. You should be opening your arm. You should be welcoming everyone. And you should help them assimilate into the country. And yes, we should spend whatever capital we have to spend to help people make the adjustment. If they have good reason to be afraid of their own country because they're going to get killed, where's your compassion? How dare you not consider the idea of amnesty? Amnesty is forgiveness. And what is their crime? Their crime is a misdemeanor because they came into this country without declaring political asylum status. They're running for their lives. They're just trying to get into a safe place. We're a better country now. We should be. We supposedly are Christian. I just don't understand why you have the political views that you have when they do not line up with your Christian value. They just do not. You're afraid of immigrants because you think they're going to take your jobs or you'll be spending too much of your tax money. What kind of Christian are you? What kind of sense of compassion do you really have when you've decided that you have to be afraid of immigrants? Obviously, we need to put some kind of system in place. But for all of those for all those people who have been living in the United States for decades, and they are here illegally, and you want to just throw them back to their country when they have been paying taxes, finding ways